Hey, 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 friends. Welcome back after the new year. I am Haley and I am joined by my two favorite co hosts, Charlie with no E and Miguel.
Where
With an E
mine
in
does
there
have an
somewhere.
E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's
uh,
up?
what's up, friends? It has been a minute since we have done our last podcast. What has it been? Officially a little over a month? It feels about
Oh,
that long.
wow. Did we leave it that long? Oops. Sorry, team.
Yeah. I am so happy to be back. Actually, friends, last week we planned, full transparency, we planned on coming back last week originally, but we realized that we needed a little bit more time to plan. And it was worth it because we really dialed in what this show is going to become in 2022. So I'm going to kick us off with the first section of our new format for 2022, which is have you heard? And this is a section of the podcast where we are going to just kind of briefly talk about some of the headlines in the creator economy. Most of the time, each of us will have something that we're going to bring. We'll talk about it pretty briefly. And it's really designed just to make sure that we are all staying up to date with the news and fun things, interesting things, scary things, all the things that are happening inside the creator economy, which is why we really all show up to this podcast. So I'm going to kick it off with Charlie, and then we'll go Miguel, me, and then I think Charlie's actually got another one for this first episode of 2022.
Well, yeah, I noticed this article recently about how a TikToker is now the face of a Gucci/North Face collaboration. Have you seen the TikTok, which is this guy watching trains and he's wearing a GoPro on his head and it makes his head like a funny shape and he's just very adorably excited about the trains that he's seeing go by. It went viral. I saw it all over my Twitter feed, and I don't know, it was just very cute. And yeah, now his name is Francis Bourgeois, I think is how you say his name. And Gucci are working with him. He's like a model in their campaign, wearing the new outfits and things, and it's set in this like train environment. I just think that's kind of cool how internet culture is feeding into luxury brands in that way, you know.
I love that. I definitely think that connects back to today's episode as well. So very cool. Miguel.
What you got, Miguel?
Yeah, that's so cool. Mine is kind of just like a quick update on something that Instagram is going to let you do, which I thought was really cool. For the first time ever, they're testing this idea of allowing you to kind of reorganize your profile grid in any way you like. So I know right now the only way to see it is chronological, and a lot of the times I see people will post things specifically in a certain order so that that grid matches up to make one big picture. But then what sucks about that is that the moment that you add another post, it's all discombobulated and it doesn't do that anymore. So this will be kind of needed if that's what you want to do. You can always make it so that you have that nice 3x3 grid and continue to post things. So you have a little bit more customization on your Instagram, and then kind of have you can kind of tailor make when someone sees your profile, kind of what they see when they first see it, which is pretty cool.
Love that. I haven't played with that yet. Mine is both a celebration and kind of a version of Have You Heard, but one of our favorite customers, but also a really well-known creator, New York Times bestselling author, James Clear, his book, Atomic Habits, actually for 2021 was Amazon's #1 selling book across the entire, like every genre across the entire platform of Amazon. I actually first realized this, which I thought was really cool, was when Reese Witherspoon, who's like the queen of books, right? At least right now, Reese Witherspoon had posted about it on Instagram. And of course, it was something that I wanted to celebrate. But I think the really important thing to highlight here, specifically for this celebration or this Have You Heard, is that James Clear started off as just a blogger, right? He was just
Yeah.
writing. He had a website where he wrote, and he really built his habit about writing by writing every single day. And that turned into Atomic Habits. And I want to say it was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago at our original Craft and Commerce, where James Clear spoke on this topic on Atomic Habits. This was in preparation for this book to launch. I don't think it had launched just yet. And it is still one of our most popular and most viewed YouTube videos. So y'all can go check that out. in our feed below for some of our past craft and commerce speaks sessions. And that was great. So that's a really cool one. I was really excited to share that one because that's a massive celebration. So
Yeah, I was like
congrats to
walking around
James.
Target and I saw the book like on the shelf, and I like go to my partner and I'm like, "Oh, that guy, that's the guy that I told you about." And she's like, "Oh, I have his audiobook." I'm like, "Oh, what?" So she's
you're like,
like,
I know him. I
"Yeah,
know him.
my
I've met
yeah,
him
my wife
before.
my wife found out about him before I even told her about him. That's how like successful his book is." She's like, "Oh yeah, I have that audiobook. I'm like halfway through it." I'm like, "Oh, well, that
Never mind then.
I never mind. I fixed his sequences of when he had a problem like 3 months ago, so that makes me cool."
Uh-oh, James Clear had a problem with sequences. Anyways, fun.
No,
Well, Charlie, I thought you actually had another one, but I think it was the same as Miguel's. Am I right on that or
No,
am I
it's slightly
wrong?
different.
similar,
Oh, okay,
Instagram,
similar.
yeah, they're making a bunch of changes at the moment to like, I think they're trying to listen to feedback. Shocking for a Facebook
Wow.
company. But they're going to let you arrange your feed in 3 different ways. So you can keep it with the like algorithmic one as it is now. You can also choose chronological, and I've forgotten what the third one is, but basically they're giving you choice. So you know how right now, like you don't necessarily see the latest post from your friend
Yeah.
in your feed because it's showing you like a boosted algorithmically generated thing. So yeah, they're trying out letting you pick that option. So I actually think creators should not be concerned about this. If anything, it makes it better for us because we can like just reach the people that we freaking want to reach with less algorithms in the way. This is, you know, I'm always going to advocate for that. So we'll see how it pans out because I'm going to bet that maybe Instagram might see some decrease in metrics they look at, like, you know, keeping us addicted. So yeah, we'll see if they keep it. But
Yeah, I'm
that's me.
interested to see what they will do with what we do when we start customizing things, because obviously they're kind of ceding some of that control, but I'll wonder what they're going to do with that. That'll be interesting to see.
And how they're going to try and control us in other ways.
Oh
Right. Dun, dun,
gosh.
dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
In the metaverse.
Yes. Very funny. All right, let's move on to our second block. This is going to be the beefy, and just to give y'all a quick description of what we're going to do here, this is going to be where we talk about, it's like the meat of our podcast. It's really going to be made up of like kind of 3 different variations, right? We're either going to have a creator as a guest. That is something we've all seen before, which would be a non-ConvertKit creator where we're talking about any sort of topic related to the creator economy. Another option or another way that we're going to move forward with this main topic is we're actually going to invite another ConvertKit guest on here as well. This is really important to us, and Charlie and I debate this, or our brand team, I guess, debates this, is whether or not we should say ConvertKit is by creators for creators or for creators by creators. But either way, you get the gist. The gist is that we are made up of a team filled with lots of different creators, and I think it's really important that we really want to showcase the really incredible creators that we have on our team because they know the creator economy. Like, you know, they're in
Inside
it.
and out.
They're in it. They're both in it and they serve it. So I think that's really important. And then we have loved talking about different articles that we see, and so we want to do that a little bit more. Have discussion centered around really interesting topics, and that is what we have planned for today. And I found this article that I thought was really interesting. It was a Forbes article. It was titled "To Succeed in the Creator Economy, Startups Should Address Creators' Needs." Charlie, if you would drop that in the chat. There we go. I knew you had me. I actually created a banner for it, but I didn't know if it was clickable. So I was just like, well, we'll just drop it in the chat. But all that said, the reason this article was really interesting to me because what it did is it gives weight to the creator economy. And it is like, I feel like the creator economy right now is all of the talk and all of the conversation, from venture capital firms to media companies trying to figure out what the heck is this thing. This is a living, breathing thing. And one of the first things that this article says, the opening line, it says that the creator economy is emerging as a potential disruptor to the $2 trillion media industry. And I think I've known that, but I didn't really sit back and think about that, as the potential for truth. So now we have all of these investors that are coming in and saying, whoa, what is this thing that's about to disrupt this industry that's been around for decades, right? And fuels so much of our economy. And now we have creators filling this creator economy, and they're about to, shake it up. Now, we all know as creators that this is not a new thing, right? So it's really interesting to see startup companies come in and enter this and try to talk about it like it hasn't been around for a long time. But have y'all really thought about that? The fact that the creator economy is disrupting a $2 trillion business, or not even business.
I
I
never
don't
thought
even know
about
what
it
you
in
call
the
it.
context of that before. Yeah.
Like, how
I think as
crazy
well
is that?
we should tell people, for the listeners who haven't clicked on the link in the YouTube description, the title of the article is "To Succeed in the Creator Economy, Startups Should Address Creators' Needs." It's by S.A. Vidra, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Which might be the most title of all time, by the way.
I was going to say, when Haley suggested this topic, in full honesty, I was like, well done. Like, if you're going to succeed in an economy, you've got to address the needs of the people in the economy. But then, as Haley explained it, it's like, no, what we're saying is that the creator economy is just the economy now. And we are all living within the creator economy, whether we are a creator or not. This is happening. This is the way the world is going. And so if businesses want to succeed in this like new way of doing business in this new economy, then creators need to be considered as a key audience. So that is what helped it click for me. I was like, oh, right. The creator economy is just the economy now.
Yeah,
they should rebrand it. They should rebrand it to the creator market. You know how you can say like, oh, well, this, what is it? The oil industry is a, $2 trillion market, or, the advertising industry is, the X amount market. Like, it's a subsection of the greater economy, but it definitely is part of the economy, obviously.
Yeah. Something that really resonated with me, there's something that I continue to think about, right, is that we do this book. It's called I'm a Blogger. It's a coffee table book. We've done 2 publications of it. It's been a baby of Charlie. She designed the first and the second one. Isa, our teammate, it's compiled of all of these different stories. And the reason why this coffee table book came into existence is because really Nathan, our CEO, and Barrett, our former COO, were tired of explaining what it was that they did for a living to people. They're like, they didn't know what they, they're like their uncle, a doctor, or, you think of all of these, more normalized, right, types of careers. Like, it makes sense. You're like, oh, you're a doctor. Okay, I get it. All right. Okay, you're a fireman or police officer, whatever it is. Everybody understands what it is that you do. But when you say I'm a content creator, or I'm a blogger, or I'm, whatever it is, like enter something in the creator economy, people are like, how do you make money? What do you do?
How's that a job? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How's that a job? And that was really out there. It was designed to answer that question. And so I just find it really interesting that what is happening now is that the creators that are making up the creator economy now, like, it's actually a recognized profession, right? It's like it's totally normalized now. If you're somebody that lives, and this is to your point, Charlie, is that no, this is just the economy. This is how people make money. And that's when they're saying, like, this is why it has the power to actually disrupt media. And so when we talk about that, like, I was thinking about all of like the different creators that are filled, or that make up our customer bases, right? They're writers, they're podcasters, they're YouTubers, they're bloggers, they're, like insert different creator type, they're musicians. Those are totally normalized. Like, you say I'm a podcaster, and people totally understand what that is and what that means. And now we don't have to rely on big media companies to get messages out. We can rely on everyday people that have real tangible relationships with their fans, that allow them to become that topic that we've talked about a lot, which is an influencer, which is really where it starts disrupting, I think, the media companies. And I know that we've been living in this for a long time, and this is nothing new, but when it's being recognized by, Forbes or recognized by the rest of the world, I feel proud, kind of,
It's
I don't know.
validating. Yeah.
It's validating. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for sure.
Well,
It's
you
validating.
know what I find interesting about that is, when I have this hobby where I like to listen to comedians talk about like the craft of comedy, and uh I'm really interested in kind of like their process, how they come up with material, and it's very similar because they themselves are creators, right? And I think like the common thread there is they always say that, like, oh yeah, growing up, when you tell someone you're a comedian, they're like, well, how do you make money doing that? Like, or your parents would say like, go, why don't you get a real job? Things like
Mm,
that. And I feel like people who are creators constantly have to fight with that same sort of thing, where it's just like, well, that's not like a real job, that's just like a hobby, or that's a side hustle, or that's something that you
right.
do on the side. And I feel like the common thread there is whenever the business itself is surrounded around someone's creativity or someone doing something themselves, I feel like people's minds tend to go to this place of like illegitimacy. And
Hmm.
it's important to remember that it's very legitimate, because there are entire markets out there that are built around around creativity, like actors, comedians, bloggers, writers. These are all people that, like, the money is made by the things that they create. And that's just as legitimate as somebody who's just like an engineer or something like that. It's a less obvious route to take with fewer rails, so it's a little less safe. But I
Mm,
feel like just because it's a less safe choice or a less classic choice, I don't think it makes it any less legitimate. It's just harder to navigate, because if I get a job as an engineer, I show up to work, they tell me what to do, I do it. It's very different as a creator. You show up to work, no
Yeah.
one's going to tell you what to do. You tell you what to
You got to
do.
figure it out.
And that's
mhm.
a
Yeah.
lot of pressure. It's a lot
Yeah.
of pressure.
Yeah.
When do you think it changed for people, right? When you think people started recognizing the creator economy as, like you said, Charlie, as the economy? For me, I'll answer this question for me. I think it was when people started learning how to monetize their business. And at least that's the way that I kind of think about it. In this article, there's actually a link from Stripe, which, by the way, when I picked this article, I did not know that this was the link. But one of the team members at Stripe actually reached out and asked me to participate in this project that they were doing internally. And Stripe, if you don't know, is a payment processing company, and Stripe is the back end for a lot of creators' businesses, online businesses. And they link to this, and they say that Stripe estimates that creators will soon pass $10 billion in aggregate earnings. And if you click on that link, it's actually a video that Stripe produced. I'm in it, and Creator Sessions is actually the front and center image of that. So, like I said, I did not know that when I picked it, and then I was like, a nice little surprise. But all that to say, my point going back is that I think that when it became more relevant, or when it became a big topic of conversation, is when creators started learning how to monetize.
I'm going to disagree. I want to come in here and
Okay.
disagree,
All right.
because
All right.
Oh shit.
creators have been monetizing for like well over a decade, I would say. And that we haven't really only been talking about it as a whole internet, I would say, in the past few years. And I think honestly that VC funding and like investment companies paying attention and like seeing, wait, there's people who are legit millionaires and they are not doing it the route that we've been doing it. We should pay
Mm,
attention to this and look over here. And I
mm,
do think that the VC funding and investment side of things has driven a lot of conversation about the creator economy. I don't yet know if it's a good thing, honestly, how involved these VC firms are with it. There was one line in this article that talked about the growing number of unicorns in the creator economy.
mm,
And for anyone who doesn't know, a unicorn is when it's like a venture capital term used to describe a privately held company that has a value of over $1 billion. So meaning it's not on the stock market, but it's worth over $1 billion, like just on its own, off its own back. So that's growing. And it says this shows the huge potential the space represents for startup founders, venture capital investors, and the creators themselves. And I take issue with the fact that the creators themselves are listed last in that. To me, like that's what I'm afraid of with the creator economy becoming the economy and becoming more accepted. There's a lot of positives to do with it, but I'm kind of also afraid that it's going to get ruined because of that. Like,
mm,
I'm not saying that like, oh, now it's mainstream, it's not cool anymore. It's very much still cool to be an independent creator and do your own thing. I just think that too often VC funding ruins things and we turn it into like just the monetization side, like you called out, Haley, because I think that is like, that was the start of it probably in being more well recognized. But there's more to being a creator than just the money, right? Like you don't start being a creator because you want the money, because you won't succeed. There has to be some heart and something behind it, like your craft, your content. So yeah, I'm just a little afraid.
I wrote down a comment about that. I think that one of the reasons why people choose to be creators is because they want the lifestyle that that being a creator can offer. And when I say that, I don't mean the lifestyle, the perceived lifestyle of getting gifted a bunch of things. What I mean is, if any of you have seen, there's like an Instagram reel that I feel like keeps coming around, and it's talking about the new rich, right? And it's basically someone saying, we don't care about the fancy brands. What we care about is time. That's the new rich. And I think that being a creator oftentimes can, if you are, if you're really intentional and you treat being a creator like a business, it can afford you more time, right? It can afford you the ability to travel and to work remotely from wherever you are, which is one of the things that ConvertKit really prioritizes, because we're made up of a bunch of creators and we all want to be able to work independently wherever we are in the world. And I think that that's one of the things that the creator economy is having a really positive impact on, is allowing people to monetize things and to create a life that doesn't rely on them going into an office 9 to 5. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's incredibly appealing. And then if you continue to further read on in this article, what it says is the opportunity really for software companies. And now I'm going to say this, and I'm obviously a little bit biased, but I think that ConvertKit has done this, or this has been top of mind for us. And we normally don't on the podcast, obviously, talk about these things. But what she says in the article, he or she, I actually don't actually know, or they.
We can just say they.
Yeah. They, I don't actually know. Anyways, what they say in the article is that there's really 3 things that startup companies should focus on to solve challenges within the creator economy that is riddled with challenges. One of them is striving to mitigate creator burnout, which we have talked about on this show extensively, tailoring your solution to creators. And lastly, Charlie, I thought you'd have a lot of input on this, but is viewing creators as design partners. And what I'm curious is I think she hit the nail on the head for these. I think that, obviously mitigating creator burnout, ConvertKit does a really fantastic job of that, just by the way that we've built our business and streamlined it. Tailoring your solutions to creators, I think, again, ConvertKit does a good job of that. Like, this is not a ConvertKit
also kind of obvious,
ad, but obvious if you compare us to MailChimp's built for small businesses, ConvertKit's built for creators. But I really wanted to dig into this point, viewing creators as design partners and the opportunities that creators have to position themselves this way, because that is actually really what I think doesn't happen often enough, is that creators don't position themselves as partners. They position themselves as like employees, right, of this like company, maybe, where they bring so much value that they really need to position and like identify as a partner. And that's how our affiliates, I think, a lot of the times operate, and at least our most successful affiliates.
Yep. As a creator, I can't even count the number of times I've had companies reach out to me, especially like over the past 2 years as the creator economy has boomed, saying like, never heard of this company, never heard of this person before. And they're like, hey, we're working on this thing. Can we get your feedback? And I'm like, not for free. And I would really encourage creators to take this attitude. Like, there is a few companies who I know and love, who I would be happy to get on a call with and like give them product feedback any day of the week totally for free, because we have like a good existing relationship. They've supported me in the past. Maybe I'm an affiliate for them, like you just called out with our ConvertKit affiliates. And so in that case, I have a stake in the game, right? Like, if I'm an affiliate for a product, the product improving and getting better for me actually helps me do my job better. But creators should be charging for companies who want to partner with creators on making their product like more tailored to them. You have so much knowledge, and it might not seem like it because you're like, well, it's just me. Like, I just It just comes naturally to me. This is just what I do. All I'm doing is telling someone else about it. But you doing that is going to make that company a shit ton of money because, like we said, creator economy is booming. So you should charge a consulting fee if a company wants you to get on a call and give them feedback in this way. Like, you should charge for your time if there's no existing relationship there, because you deserve it and you should be treated as a partner, like Haley said, not like an employee or just like a user.
And collectively, it creates a precedent for these companies to understand that whenever you reach out to a creator like that, that they should expect that they're going to pay that person,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
if they start getting used to the fact that it's not free, then they expect it to not be free,
Yep.
and that kind of sets the tone for for creators as a whole. It's like, we are not a free resource. We're not a Google
Yeah.
search. So
Yep.
sorry.
And like
Love
the hour I spend on a call with you giving you feedback could be spent on my own business. So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I love that. What's missing from this list? I'm curious from those that are listening, if you're saying, hey, startups out there or ConvertKit out there or whomever out there, what problems do you want companies to solve for you as an independent creator? If there was a magic solution out there for you, I'm curious what it would be. Throw those in the chat if you have any thoughts on them.
I quite like this comment that Alejandro has left, saying that big new tech is seeing creators as dollar signs. Very few are seeing creators as people. And Alejandro says, I choose tech for my creator business based on their ability to build a community for their creators. I think this is a good point. It's related to the, what was the second point, Haley, about meeting creator needs? Because like the article talks about, creators have similar needs to a small business, but it's also very different to be an independent creator instead of a business. And I think that's something that's missing from a lot of tech companies. I find that they are talking to me as a creator. No, they're talking to me as a business. They will say like, hey team, and I'm like, yo, it's just me. Like, obviously there's a lot of creators who have a team around them and have built it into an
What's
actual
so
company.
funny? I have to interrupt here, but what's so funny about that is that the reason why the creator economy, at least in my opinion, or at least one of the many reasons why the creator economy has fueled so much growth, I think, is because people are so connected to the creators because they see them as people.
Mhm.
So their
Yeah, 'cause
fans
they are.
identify them as people
Yeah.
and they trust their opinion. So if we're talking about, let's say, like a traditional influencer on Instagram, right, who promotes products, gets paid to promote those products, right? The reason why that works is because they promote things that they love, and they're honest, they show up as themselves, and then people are attracted to that, and they're like, oh well, I trust this person's judgment I trust that judgment over an ad that I'm seeing on
Mhm.
on the
From the business
television.
directly. Yeah.
Exactly, from the business directly, like it's a review. And so you would think that startup companies would approach creators with that same, like, mindset, is that these are people, right? They're not businesses. And the reason why this works is because people look at them as people. They're real and they're honest. And so I just find that kind of funny that they're like approaching it totally differently than for the reason that it actually works.
Ooh, something in what you just said, Haley, made me think that maybe something missing from this list of strive to mitigate burnout, tailor solutions to creators, view creators as design partners, is perhaps tailor solutions to a creator's audience as well. Like, and help facilitate a stronger connection between the two, because creators are like, we're fueled by our audience, right?
Yeah.
We make something, we hope to find people who are interested in it, and then we hope to nurture that relationship and like fuel it and keep it going and keep people interested and engaged. And that's a really hard part about being a creator. And so if you can make the experience better for the fans, for the audience, and make them feel more connected to the creator, then I think that could be another way to win in the creator economy.
Yeah, I love that. Let's wrap up this section. Do we have any other closing thoughts? Miguel, what do you think? Anything else?
Something that might have been missing, and this isn't a fully formed thought, but whenever companies reach out to creators because the company needs something from that creator, it can be kind of a weird situation, like we were talking about before, where they're reaching out to that creator and it's kind of a weird situation where like you might be so glad that they're reaching out to you that you don't want to miss the opportunity of working with that company, that you might uh, prioritize that partnership over getting paid, because you don't, a lot of people like this happens when you're trying to get it, like asking for higher pay in a job offer or something like that. We're like, well,
Mm.
might I risk the entire job offer if I say, well, actually, I want $5
Mm.
more an hour or whatever it is? So you're likely to accept less just because you're afraid of scuttling the whole thing. Um, so I have found that certain things are popping up around the internet. That's kind of one of them specifically is like hard to forget the name. Now I talked about it in our company Slack today, and I thought it was great. And it's this thing called "fuck you, pay me." And
Mm.
it's essentially for creators. It's like a thing for influencers and creators to get paid because and then it's kind of like, think of it as like a glass door for
Yep.
companies, where there's like ratings and things like that for those companies. There's like, oh, if you work with this company, they don't pay you till like 4 months later, and you have to keep hounding them, so don't work with them. And it's kind of like a way of like making sure that people don't get screwed over, because when it's a big company and a single creator, you feel
Mhm.
really disadvantaged. But when you go into that with like, oh, like when you go to a job offer and you see it on Glassdoor that everybody in your position is getting paid $50 an hour and they offered you 42, you can show up and be like, listen, motherfucker, pay me 50. Uh, Don't
I
try to
am
Miguel just
shortchange me.
dropped 2 F-bombs. I love it.
I know. I'm obsessed with this. Now I'm like, oh, oh shit, we can like go on this topic for a little bit longer now. But no, I'm obsessed with this idea, because one of the things, my old business partner Mandy for Happy House Plant, her previous business Vintage Revival, she made most of her money doing partnerships, and that was how,
Mhm.
whether that was with, let's say Home Depot or Sherwin-Williams, right? She was a DIY blogger, and one thing that she did really, really, really well is mentor other creators and other bloggers to get more money from their partnerships. So they would come to her as she was an established creator, and they would come to her. And this, by the way, is not something that commonly happens. A lot of creators don't actually do this. They don't offer that because they think of it like a pot, right? And it's like the
Yeah.
marketing department has a pot, and they're like, well, it's not like we pay every single creator this amount of money. We actually just distribute the pot, based off of all of these different things. And so that's the mindset that people actually have. And the reason for that is that this is so new that people don't actually know. They're like, well, what is this worth? Or, there's not like
Yeah.
20
Mhm.
years worth of data on this. But what she would do is she would mentor other creators, and she would look at their email history, and she would be like, no, you're going to go in and you're going to ask for X. And this is going to be like you're going to have an actual negotiation back and forth. And what you're going to do is you're going to have all of the data to support why you're asking for this amount of money. And I thought that was really important. She didn't just go in there with anecdotal evidence. She went in there with data. And that's one of the things that you as a creator can do when you're talking about like how engaged your audience is, or things like that. But I love that because it puts the power back in the creator's hands to say, no, this is, and then it also allows you to make really important decisions. So I just really liked that. That was a really great added point, Miguel. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope that everybody has the time to read that article. I think Charlie linked it again. Click on the additional links in that article as well. There's one that will link you back to an older article from the New York Times about creator burnout. Specifically, it's talking a lot about TikTok stars and some like Gen Z TikTok stars and like what they were experiencing as burnout. And then there's another article, the article from Stripe. So there's a lot of additional articles that are added value. So definitely take a look at that. For this next and final section of the podcast for us is we are going to be doing like a creator call out. And so since this is our first one of 2022, we don't actually have someone to call out or discuss, but we want to have the opportunity to share the work of our fans and viewers. I hate saying that word, fans, but the awesome people that show up to this podcast, we want to talk about and celebrate the work that you're doing. So that will be like the third and final section before we end the podcast. And Charlie's adding a link
And I
here.
just
So
shared a
I'm
link to the form.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Charlie, you talk about that link here for a second.
Great. Yeah. So we want, like Haley said, we want to be able to shout you out and shout out the great things you're doing. So there's a form linked in, we'll put it in the show notes. It's in the live chat for people watching on YouTube. You just fill it out and tell us what you create and about like a win you've had recently. Maybe it was something you launched that you're really proud of, a milestone you hit, you got like this great comment that just made you like, it filled you up. Tell us about it briefly and share a link to where people can find you. And we want to call these things out on the show because I think that we will get to, get more eyes on your work and share more of the great wins and things that people in our community are doing.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to just highlight here really quickly on this topic is please don't think that a win has to be at a certain level or that something has to be a certain point for you to celebrate it. One thing that I really want to make sure that we do is celebrate really small wins because it's those small incremental wins that get us to those really big wins that are like life-changing kind of wins. But please share all of them, no matter how small they actually are, because every creator at every stage, you're going to have different sorts of wins and celebrations, and they're all equally important. So please make sure to do that.
Yes. Well said, Haley.
Cool.
And shall I share about our topic for next week? Because we're so
Yes.
planned in advance that we now know what we're going to be talking about next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
really have to happen.
It's a bright new future.
I know. Let us know also what you guys think about this new format. It's something that, like I said, we're really excited about. Wanting to put a little bit more of intention behind our topics and conversations and making sure that we're serving you because your time is incredibly valuable. I listened to this fantastic podcast called Terrible Thanks for Asking very recently. And it's, if you haven't listened to it, I totally spaced the host's name, but again, Terrible Thanks for Asking. And one of her topics was about the value of time. So we really value your time, and we want to make sure that this is worthwhile, not just entertaining, but valuable and worth your time.
Yes. Yes. So
Charlie, what are we
next
doing
week,
next week? Yeah.
join us to hear me rave about this little internet game that I've been playing for the past couple weeks that has been taking the internet by storm, Wordle. Some of you will hear this and instantly start thinking of like green and yellow squares. And some of you will hear it and think, what the fuck is Wordle? I've never heard of this. That's okay. But it's something that is like really taking over my Twitter timeline in particular. Everyone is playing it. It's like this little, just like web game. And we're going to go into like how it went viral and look into the success of this in next week's episode. So please join us and bring your Wordle nerddom.
Yeah. Ooh, the power of the internet, friends. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the very first episode of 2022. We will be back next week. Again, I'm Haley and joined by Charlie and Miguel. Thanks for joining The Future Belongs to Creators, and we'll see you later.
Have a good one.